Hello everyone and welcome to the Animezilla, and today we'll be going over my top 5 surprising characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Now, I've already done my top 10 disappointing characters, which if you haven't seen that, I'll link it in the description below. But, much like that video, this video will be heavily opinionative. So, if you don't agree with my opinion, and you think another character deserves to be on this list, then let me know down in the comment section. Or if you just want to say I'm wrong for whatever reason, by all means, I'm happy to see it. Anyway, let's jump in with number 5. So number 5, we have Soulburner. Now probably the only list this character will make its way onto in a top 5 for me. As I've mentioned before throughout my reviews, this character isn't one that I like very much. However, he surprised me about how much his character has actually grown on me throughout the series. Let me explain. His character for the most part felt very repetitive, especially when you watch his duels. Dueling wise, I think his character is absolutely atrocious. Yes, he's never lost, but it's just boring to watch for the most part. I'll admit some of the duels were interesting, but that was because the opponent in that duel helped carry him and pushed him further. But if you take a look at the history of Soulburner's character, so his background and story and his development, and then this is where his surprisement actually comes into play for me. As we see his emotional struggles and how much he grows and how he overcomes the lost instant effect and how it's traumatized him. Now, I said in my other video for my disappointing ones that Yusaku didn't feel like he had any kind of real development in overcoming what had happened to him in the lost incident. He kind of did that off screen and we were led to believe that he's now okay. With Soulburner, we see him actually struggle to pick up his duel disc. Back in his own town when he was facing those bullies, I think it was, he couldn't duel without flame. Now, it's his personal growth and his character development that surprised me in how much it has grown on me. And honestly, I really kind of maybe like Soulburner as a character now. He's not in the top 10, but he's certainly a decent character. And let's not forget, the voice acting was surprisingly good for the character. They had a very good voice actor for this character. I think he does Shoto from My Hero Academia, Todoroki. And it fitted the character very nicely. So that was a nice little surprise and, something that went well with it. So Soulburner, for surprising me in how much you've actually grown, you get the number 5 spot on this list. Now, this next one is a little bit more of surprising in a way that the direction of the character has gone, as opposed to what the character has actually done. And that, for number 4, is Aoi's Aizen. She looked surprised, and I certainly was surprised. Because, hear me out, Aoi is a brilliant character. But what surprised me the most wasn't the amount of outfit changes she had to her avatar, it was more of her growth as a character and the theme behind her character. Now, normally, throughout Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, they don't tend to give the female protagonist or female lead much in a way of development and much in a way of personality and sort of themes. If you look at GX, Asuka didn't really have much. If you look at Duel Monsters, Taya was just annoying with all of her friendship stuff. 5Ds broke the mold, and Aoi is very similar to Akiza from 5Ds. Again, with Zexal, they kind of went downhill a lot because they had a really good female lead, and then they had Tori, which she never dueled and was pretty much a cheerleader for the most part. And then they kind of went uphill a little bit with Yuzu, but Aoi surprised me in just how dark and serious the themes surrounding her character actually are. She's very anxious, very shy. She's, I wouldn't say depressed, but she's socially awkward to a certain degree. And her upbringing wasn't the best. And we see this in the character, and honestly, if you were to kind of start the show off, fresh eyes, like I did personally at the start, you look at Blue Angel and you think, wow, she must be a happy-go-lucky person in real life. And then you kind of find out what she's really like in real life, and you're like, oh, okay. But then the great development that comes with Aoi's character throughout Vrains is so different from the other females that we've had from Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, the closest sort of resemblance we have to the development and the dark themes surrounding her character is Akiza from 5Ds. And both characters are really popular for that reason. Now, the outfit changes she has were a little bit surprising, but I like the way that they were used. They were used to kind of show her growth and her development throughout, and we got some good designs from them. So it was a little bit surprising about the amount of changes she had to her avatar, but despite all that, she's one of the females in Yu-Gi-Oh! That surprised me the most, and I put her on this list just because she's a great character, and her character didn't faceplant at all throughout the series. Oh, wait, oops, that was a mistake. Anyway, speaking of faceplanting, we have number 3, Spectre. Now, Spectre is a character that I'm surprised at for 2 reasons. And those reasons are, number 1, he's way more crazier than I would have ever imagined his character to have been. And his backstory is even weirder. Like, this guy was raised by a tree, apparently. And I was genuinely shocked at how much of an insane person Spectre was, especially in the Tower of Hanoi arc. And there was also a hint of brutality in his actions, for example, taking hostages, and just what he did to Aoi's Aizen / Blue Angel. He literally made her fly up into the air and just faceplant. Spectre's character surprised me because of his personality, really. Because looking at his character, he's kind of like a sheep in wolf's clothing. He doesn't look all that intimidating, especially when he's in Vrains. If you showed this character to a non-Yu-Gi-Oh fan, they probably wouldn't have said, look, he's a villain. And when you say that he's a villain and show them what he actually does, they'll go, oh my god, really? That's a kid's show? And there's a character like that in it? Spectre's backstory is really dark, and it twists his personality and makes him a surprisingly good character. I know some people kind of refer to him as being sort of Merrick-like, but he isn't quite on that level. Now, the second reason as to why I'm a bit surprised by this character is, for the latter part of the show, I don't 100% know why, but Spectre's character was quite a popular character throughout, and his archetype wasn't terrible. The Servine archetype was pretty decent, so why didn't his character get used very much? That's what I'm surprised at. Because he is, for the most part, I would say a fan favourite. And we see him dual lightning, but after that he pretty much does nothing. He gets defeated off screen, and personally, I would have preferred to see Spectre versus Earth. And then we get Soltech come in and take Earth afterwards, by stealing him. That way we still get the horrifying Soltech scene where they dissect Earth. But it still gives Spectre that kind of extra thing to do. Because, honestly, he doesn't do a lot apart from face lightning, face playmaker, and face Aoi. Which, all of them he lost in. Again, some good voice acting with this character, especially with the crazy psychotic laughs and expressions. Obviously, voice actors wouldn't do the expressions, but it was still very well portrayed for the character of Spectre. And for these reasons, of him being surprisingly crazy, mad, over the top, psychotic, and being a surprisingly underused character, Spectre is number 3 on my list. Now, going into number 2. Number 2, we have Rabapi. Now, Rabapi is a character that was surprising, as we all didn't expect to be cheering over a robot. When we first started Vrains, and until the final season, we didn't really get anything from Rabapi. We got little hints that something was going on between Rabapi and I, like with the whole, I'm gonna make you intelligent type of thing. And then Rabapi's like, yes, Arneki, or brother, however you want to say it. And, you know, I never expected that what we got in the end was a crazy, innocent kid that wasn't the best character within the series, but his character had some good duels and some good qualities. It surprised me and shocked me a bit when he went crazy and berserked, like all the information overloaded his brain, and then it's just the overall raw emotion that they showed at the end with his death scene that surprised me the most, because we as fans never expected to actually get emotional over this character when we first saw him. And honestly, I did feel sorry for Rabapi towards the end. He was basically being used by the person he idolized. And by the end of the arc, my general impression of Rabapi was changed. And that was done through the work that they put into this character. This character was kept in the dark for quite a long time, but when they would use him, or her, it was very well executed. And honestly, again, that's the reason why I'm surprised at Rabapi's character, and I give him the number 2 slot. So then, number 1. Before we get to number 1, I do actually just want to say a few honourable mentions. A few characters that didn't make this list that I thought were surprising. Real quick, we have Queen, which was surprisingly useless because we all expected her to do a lot more, and she did pretty much nothing. Kusanagi, he was surprisingly a lot more helpful than I thought he would be, and his duel was actually surprisingly good against Playmaker. And Go, because I've said on my other video, Go was surprisingly disappointing. As someone who was kind of being built up to be like a rival at the start, I don't see Go as a decent character. Now then, number 1, my most surprising character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains is in fact Akira Zaizen. Now this character is full of surprises and great qualities. He was surprisingly useful in pretty much every arc and situation throughout the Vrains series. He was a surprisingly good and fun duelist. I enjoyed watching the duels that he was in, although I think it was only 2 or 3. And he's a great brother with a surprisingly feel of wanting to watch this character on the screen. This character does so much throughout the series that whenever I see him do something, I'm intrigued and interested to see how he's going to solve the problem. Yes, he's a big executive at Soltech, and that's pretty much his job, and he needs his job to support his family, which is why he works so hard, but he shows a lot of dedication and a lot of kind of commitment. This character, I find personally, thought was a small fry villain for like 1 season, and then we wouldn't see him again. But I'm surprised and wrong that I was wrong. He does this pretty much in every season. He gets involved with nearly everything, and I found his backstory to be really interesting. As normally, backstories tend to shape a character, and Aoi and Akira's backstory isn't the brightest. It's quite sad, quite kind of dark almost. But Akira doesn't let this affect him. He's a hard-working, caring person, which I guess he was in his flashback, but hopefully you understand what I mean. Like, he didn't go crazy or psychotic because he had to work for gangs, or he didn't, he never really got into the wrong neighborhood later on when it mattered. And honestly, when he kind of did all the big things in the neuron section of the show, it was really nice and refreshing to see a character that wasn't the main character put in so much work in order to help out in the grand scheme of things. Akira Zaizen is one of my favourite characters and my most surprising character because of all the qualities and all the stuff that he actually achieves and does throughout Vrains. Anyway, that's going to do it for this top 5 surprising characters list. And those are just my general reasons as to why. Now, you might not agree, you might disagree, you might agree. I've said disagree twice pretty much, but oh well. So if you want to, then you can always put your opinions down in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing them, and if you want to try and argue anything that I said, feel free to. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me, and until next time, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.